The invasion begins. The sky cracked open. At first, people thought it was just another bizarre atmospheric phenomenon, maybe an eclipse, or some rare aurora caused by solar flares. But then the ships came. They weren't sleek, silver discs like in old sci-fi movies. These were massive, monolithic constructs, the size of entire cities, casting shadows over the land below. The sky darkened as thousands of them emerged from the void, blocking out the sun like a storm cloud of death. The world held its breath. Every government scrambled for answers, but there was no warning, no diplomatic message, no grand declaration, just silence. Then, without a word, they attacked. Cities crumbled under their assault. Plasma beams reduced skyscrapers to molten slag in seconds. The streets filled with fire, smoke, and the screams of those who couldn't escape. People ran, but there was nowhere to hide. The invasion had begun, and humanity was already losing. "We're the Varkai, submit or be erased." The message wasn't spoken in words. It wasn't transmitted over radio waves. Instead, it invaded minds. Every human on Earth felt it, a voice in their skull, a presence that didn't belong, cold, mechanical, final. The Varkai had arrived, a species so advanced that their technology blurred the line between science and magic. Their ships moved without thrusters, their weapons fired without visible ammunition, and their soldiers, 7-foot-tall armored titans, marched through the ruins like gods of war. Governments tried to negotiate, but there was no reply. The ultimatum was simple: submit or die. The United Nations called for emergency meetings, but the world didn't have time for bureaucracy. The United States launched its nuclear arsenal, followed by China, Russia, and every other nuclear-capable nation. The missiles never landed. They disintegrated midair, dissolved into nothingness before they could even breach the Varkai's energy fields. Humanity's greatest weapons were irrelevant. Panic spread like wildfire. Entire cities were abandoned overnight. Millions fled into underground bunkers, hoping to outlast the invasion. Others stayed behind, choosing to fight, despite knowing how hopeless it was. In London, fighter jets took off, launching everything they had at the alien warships. Missiles, railguns, EMPs. Nothing worked. The Varkai didn't even retaliate. They didn't have to. Their shields rendered all human weapons obsolete. They marched forward, unstoppable, emotionless, merciless. A forgotten warning somewhere deep within a classified military bunker. General Elias Carter watched the invasion unfold through satellite feeds. His face was stone, but his fists were clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. "We knew this was coming," he muttered. Across from him, Dr. Rachel Ivers, a top scientist from the Strategic Research Division, looked just as grim. "We did," she admitted, "and we ignored the warnings." A decade ago, humanity had intercepted a fragmented transmission from deep space. It had been garbled, ancient, barely decipherable. But one phrase stood out: "Do not let them find Earth." The message came from a long-dead civilization, one that had vanished without a trace. Now they knew why. The Varkai weren't just conquerors, they were executioners. "Why us?" Carter growled. "We're not the only sentient species in the galaxy. Why is Earth a target?" Rachel hesitated. Then after a long breath, she said, "Because we have something they fear." Carter narrowed his eyes. "What?" She swallowed. "We don't know yet, but we need to find out, before it's too late." The world unites. But is it enough? For the first time in history, every nation on Earth faced a common enemy: the United States and Russia, China and India, Iran and Israel. Old hatreds meant nothing in the face of extinction. A desperate plan was formed, a final stand. All remaining military forces would launch a coordinated strike against the Varkai fleet. Not with brute force, but with strategy. If direct attacks were useless, they'd fight another way. Hacker teams worked around the clock, searching for weaknesses in the enemy's systems. Scientists analyzed alien technology, looking for anything that could be exploited. Guerrilla fighters staged ambushes, hitting supply lines and communication nodes. It wasn't enough. For every Varkai ship they disrupted, another 10 took its place. The tide wasn't turning. It wasn't even slowing. Humanity was on the brink. Then in the chaos, a breakthrough, a discovery that changed everything. And for the first time since the invasion began, humanity had a chance. The hidden power of humanity. The world was burning. Every major city was either under siege or had already fallen. The Varkai were efficient, precise, and utterly without mercy. No matter how hard humanity fought, it was like punching a tidal wave. Nothing stopped them. But deep in a classified bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, something had changed. Dr. Rachel Ivers stood before the flickering holographic display, her hands trembling over the keyboard. The data she had been analyzing for the past 72 hours finally made sense. She turned to General Carter, her voice barely above a whisper. "They aren't afraid of us," she said. "They're afraid of what we can become." The genetic anomaly. It started with old research, declassified genetic studies on the human brain. Scientists had long suspected that humanity possessed something unique compared to other sentient life. Now Rachel had proof. Every advanced civilization that had fallen to the Varkai followed the same pattern. They had all reached a specific technological threshold just before they were wiped out, a threshold humanity was about to cross. Neural adaptability, Rachel explained, her eyes burning with revelation. It's why our brains are so different from any other species. The Varkai fear what we might unlock if we survive long enough. General Carter folded his arms. And what exactly are we unlocking? Rachel exhaled sharply. Something beyond their control. Evolution at an impossible rate. If we had just a little more time, decades, maybe even years, our understanding of reality itself would change. She looked at the display, where the latest battle reports streamed in. They aren't just exterminating us, she continued. They're preventing something. Carter's gaze darkened. Then we make sure they fail. The unfinished project buried deep beneath Area 51, hidden beneath decades of secrecy, was Project Prometheus, a failed experiment, a forgotten experiment. It had started as an attempt to accelerate human cognitive potential, to push the limits of thought, reflexes, and perception. The results had been unstable. Test subjects experienced bursts of impossible intelligence, split-second precognition, even moments of telepathic awareness. But the project had been shut down. The human brain wasn't ready. Yet. But now, with extinction at their doorstep, there was no time left to wait. "We need to reawaken Prometheus," Rachel said. Carter hesitated. "That project was shut down for a reason." Rachel met his eyes. "We either take the risk or humanity dies." The choice was made. The first awakening. Not everyone could handle the process. The first group of test subjects, handpicked from the best special forces, scientists, and strategists, underwent the Prometheus activation. The effects were immediate. Reflexes sharpened. Reactions accelerated. Thoughts expanded. They could process combat situations at speeds that made AI seem sluggish. Predict enemy movements before they happened. For the first time, Varkai warriors fell. A single enhanced soldier was worth an entire battalion. A squad? A nightmare. Word of the breakthrough spread fast. Scientists raced to refine the process. Volunteers lined up by the thousands. Humanity, once on the brink of collapse, was adapting faster than the Varkai had ever imagined. But they weren't the only ones changing. The awakened were beginning to see more. Patterns, connections, things that shouldn't have been possible. It was no longer just heightened intelligence or instincts. Something deeper was awakening. Something new. And the Varkai could sense it. Their attacks became desperate, faster, more reckless. For the first time since the invasion began, they were afraid. The turn of the tide. The first real victory came in the ruins of Berlin. A group of awakened fighters, only 10 of them, held off an entire Varkai war column. Not with superior firepower, not with better technology, but with something else. They moved as if the battle was already decided, reacting before attacks were made, firing before enemies even emerged from cover. The Varkai, undefeated conquerors of entire galaxies, were being outmaneuvered. It was impossible, and yet it was happening. More victories followed. New York, Cairo, Tokyo. Humanity wasn't just surviving, they were winning. The Varkai High Command finally spoke. After months of silence, after offering nothing but destruction, their first real transmission arrived in every surviving human stronghold. A single message. What have you done? The answer was simple. We evolved. The final phase. For the first time in recorded history, the Varkai retreated. They had underestimated humanity. They had struck too soon. And now, the very thing they had feared was unfolding. We have them on the run, Carter said, watching as satellite footage showed the alien warships leaving Earth's orbit. But they'll come back. They will, Rachel agreed. And next time, they won't hold back. Humanity had survived the invasion. Now they had to end the war. They would take the fight to the stars. They would finish this, and the universe would finally learn why you should never underestimate a species that refuses to die. Humanity strikes back. The war was no longer about survival. Humanity had done the impossible, turned the tide against an empire that had crushed countless civilizations before them. The Varkai had come expecting an easy conquest. Now they were retreating, but Earth wasn't going to let them escape. For the first time in history, humanity was taking the war to the stars. The pursuit begins. Every surviving world government had come together under a single banner, the Terran Alliance. Factories once built for consumer goods now churned out warships. Fleets of newly designed battlecruisers, forged from reverse-engineered Varkai technology, launched into orbit. But these weren't ordinary ships. The awakened, humans enhanced through Project Prometheus, had taken control. Their minds, sharpened beyond normal comprehension, adapted to space combat faster than any AI. They could predict enemy maneuvers before they happened. Outthink, outmaneuver, outfight. Earth's first interstellar fleet was no longer just a response to invasion. It was a declaration. Humanity would never be a prey species again. First contact, on their terms. The first space battle in human history took place near Jupiter. A Varkai fleet, one of their many retreating forces, was intercepted. The aliens had assumed no species could chase them into deep space so quickly. They were wrong. The TAS Revenant, Earth's first flagship, led the assault. Its crew, fully awakened, moved as if they had already lived the battle 1,000 times. Every maneuver, every shot, perfectly timed. Varkai warships, superior in firepower and shielding, were shredded apart. It wasn't just victory, it was a slaughter. One by one, the Varkai ships detonated, unable to keep up with the sheer adaptability of human strategy. The Varkai commander broadcasted a desperate message before their ship imploded into oblivion. This is not possible. But it was, and it was just the beginning. The hunt across the stars Earth's forces expanded beyond the solar system. They hunted. Wherever Varkai ships fled, humanity followed. Tactical teams, elite awakened soldiers, landed on enemy-occupied worlds, liberating enslaved species in days. The Varkai's greatest weapon had always been psychological warfare, their reputation of being unstoppable. Now they were the ones running. Across the galaxy, species that had once cowered in fear took notice. Humanity wasn't just winning, they were changing the balance of power. For the first time in millennia, the Varkai Empire was in danger, and they knew it. The last stand of the Varkai homeworld cornered. The Varkai Supreme Council had no choice. They summoned every remaining warship to their home system, Crixos Prime, a fortress world, a place that had never been breached, until now. The Terran Armada arrived in full force. 50 battlecruisers, hundreds of fighter squadrons, thousands of awakened warriors. The Varkai had expected a siege. Instead, humanity attacked immediately. They struck with relentless speed. They broke the enemy formation in hours. Varkai defenses collapsed under a force they couldn't understand, couldn't predict. The awakened weren't just warriors. They were something beyond war. And the Varkai knew it. They sent a desperate message to humanity's fleet. We surrender. The war is over. But humanity wasn't done yet. One last question remained. Why had the Varkai feared them so much? The truth revealed, deep within the capital of Crixos Prime, humanity found what the Varkai had been hiding. Not weapons, not technology, but records. Ancient records, dating back millions of years. The Varkai hadn't started this war. They had inherited it. Long ago, humanity had already risen once. An ancient human civilization, one so powerful, so advanced, that it had nearly rewritten reality itself. They had left the galaxy, vanished. And now their descendants, modern humans, had begun to reawaken. The Varkai weren't conquerors, they were guardians, keeping the galaxy safe from humanity. Because once humans reached their full potential, nothing could stop them. The decision that shaped the universe. Humanity stood at a crossroads. They could exterminate the Varkai, wipe out their empire, and take their place as rulers of the galaxy. Or they could do something unexpected. They could prove the Varkai wrong. General Carter stood before the Varkai's supreme leader, who knelt before him in surrender. "You feared us," Carter said. The alien leader shuddered. "You are the storm that changes everything." Carter stepped forward. "No," he said. "We are the future." Humanity spared the Varkai, but they didn't forget. They didn't forgive. They led. Epilogue: A New Age. The war ended, but humanity's rise had only just begun. The Terran Alliance became the new superpower of the galaxy, not through conquest, but through evolution. The Awakened continued to grow, unlocking abilities beyond science. They weren't just warriors anymore. They were something greater, and out in the darkness of space, something older than the Varkai watched. Something that remembered the first humans, and it whispered, "They have returned." Humanity wasn't just the future. They were the beginning of something new, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The New Order. The war with the Varkai was over, but the real war, the war for humanity's future, had just begun. The aftermath of victory. The Terran Alliance now controlled what was once the Varkai Empire. Hundreds of worlds, thousands of species, many of whom had lived in terror for millennia, were now looking to humanity for guidance. Some welcomed their new rulers, others feared them. But one thing was certain: the galaxy had changed, and it wasn't ready for what was coming next. The Awakened problem. The Awakened were no longer just human. They had surpassed biology, technology, even time itself. Some could predict events before they happened. Others could reshape reality in ways that defied physics, and that terrified the galactic community. We replaced one empire with another. What if the humans become something worse? The fear spread. Allies turned suspicious. Enemies gathered in the shadows. The Terran Alliance had won the war, but now they had to survive peace. The hidden threat. Deep in the ruins of Crixos Prime, human scientists found something far older than the Varkai. A signal. A message. Something had noticed humanity's awakening, and it was coming. The Shadow War begins. The first attack came without warning. A colony world, Ishtar 4, was wiped out in an instant. Not by weapons, not by invasion, but by something worse. Every sentient being simply disappeared, like they had never existed. And in their place, a message was left behind. You were not meant to return. Humanity had been warned. The war with the Varkai was nothing compared to what was coming. And the true enemy had been waiting for them all along. The forgotten enemy. The true history of humanity. For thousands of years, humanity believed they were just another species in the cosmos. That belief was wrong. Ancient records, discovered deep beneath Crixos Prime, revealed the truth. Humanity had existed before, not just as a species, but as gods. Their first civilization had conquered reality itself. They had rewritten the laws of existence. And then, they had vanished. Not because they were destroyed, but because they had left, gone somewhere else. And now something was forcing them back. The return of the old gods. The Ishtar incident was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, strange anomalies began to appear. Planets vanishing, stars blinking out. And then came the whispers. Not in any language known to the galaxy, not through any communication system, but directly into the minds of every awakened human. You do not belong here. Return to your exile, or be erased. The war beyond reality. This was no longer a war of flesh and steel. This was a war of existence itself. The Terran Alliance prepared for battle. The Awakened reached deeper into their abilities. And for the first time in history, humanity was fighting against itself. Because somewhere out there, in the void between realities, their ancestors were watching. And they were not pleased. You were meant to remain forgotten. You should have stayed asleep. But humanity had already made its choice. They had awakened, and they would never go back. Epilogue: the dawn of a new era. The war with the Varkai had been nothing compared to this. The galaxy thought they had feared humanity before, but now they knew the truth. Humanity was not just another species. They were something ancient, something powerful, something that had once ruled creation itself, and now they were here to take it back.